Hey, good evening. Good evening. Well, I want to know, do you ever deal with stress? Do you ever deal with stress? So, I'm Cindy Baker, and I have helped over the past several years lots of entrepreneurs and other creative professionals uh, learn how to leverage ADHD symptoms, whether they've been diagnosed or not, as their superpower. So I've helped people um, thrive with their by using their strengths, working with their ADHD instead of trying to fight against it and being somebody that they're not. And that is stressful. And so I'm going to share with you tonight at least four things you can do to help combat stress, especially if you have ADHD like me. And I might even throw in a few bonus things as well. So I'm so glad you are here. If you are watching live, would love for you to say hi in the chat. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you are here. I'm gonna pull it up here on my other. All right. Oh, I got to turn the volume down. I don't want to hear myself. Nobody wants to hear feedback. There we go. So say hi. And I know you might be watching in different places, but if you have ADHD, which I am officially diagnosed, but if you just kind of have those symptoms, stress is a problem for lots of people. And for people with ADHD, stress makes our symptoms worse. Have you noticed that? Um, ADHD symptoms cause stress. So it just can be a vicious cycle because we have symptoms and that causes stress, and the stress makes our symptoms worse. It's a vicious cycle for sure. So if you are watching, say hi in the chat, ask me any questions, anything like that. I'd be glad to answer those. So we have, things from outside external stressors and stresses from, within our own brains too. And for people with ADHD, frustration and stress levels, they're almost constantly elevated because the ADHD brain doesn't filter out stimuli. We have a lower level of dopamine. So we don't automatically filter out stimuli, slow down. We don't easily concentrate. We can do it, but it's not as natural. So people who study neuroscience say that stress affects the prefrontal cortex in our brains. That's the same location of the brain affected by ADHD. And research has shown that stress actually causes changes to the brain. Now we know a lot more about brain science, and we know that you can develop new neural pathways in your brain. We didn't know that before. So stress can actually change your brain in a bad way. There's a decrease in the executive function abilities of the brain, which already is a struggle for people with ADHD. And that's the part or the function of your brain where you have the ability to organize information and activities, manage your emotions, sequence things, get started. There's a reduced cognitive capacity for making decisions, reduced capacity for doing the brain work needed for goal setting and problem solving. They call it cognitive self-regulation. That's an issue for us. It has nothing to do with intelligence. In fact, a lot of people with ADHD are highly creative and intelligent. But it's important to address both the cognitive challenges and the emotional challenges. So working with with ADHD rather than trying to fight against it, that's the best strategy. So you have to do what works with you, embracing your positive traits and strengths. That's going to help you reduce stress because you're not fighting against yourself. You've heard the saying, we get in our own way. That is so true, is it not? So let me know in the chat if you guys are on. Hey, Alice. Hey, Kelsey, Rachel. I know some people are watching other places other than Facebook. Um, Whoops, I think I just deleted myself. So, a few tips that you've probably heard before, but I'm just going to remind you about them. Back the past few years, the word mindfulness was kind of the buzzword. And at first, I thought it was really kind of hokey, like it made me think of, really young, skinny, blonde girls in a yoga pose with the sunset behind them. But it's not really about that. Mindfulness is just um, being aware of the present, because a lot of times stress is when we're worrying about the past and we're worrying about the future. And one way you can do that is just deep breathing. I grew up with asthma, and so breathing was difficult for me as a child sometimes. And sometimes it's just very calming for me to take a deep breath. Sometimes I even, just catch myself if I'm starting to get irritated or something. I just breathe in 4 counts, breathe out 4 counts. I do it 3 times. So if we had more time, I'd do it right now, but try it. When you get off of this, when you stop watching this video, you can even set a timer. Every hour you pause and you notice what's going well, and then express gratitude and just be aware of the moment. So mindfulness is the first thing. And then the second is to create and maintain routines and systems. That really helps minimize stress. I know it sounds boring, but what that does is it limits decisions that you have to make, because you're automating daily life, and you don't have to decide what am I going to do and when and in what order. It's just a pattern. It's already decided. Um, so for instance, every night I make the coffee for the next morning and set the timer on the coffee maker, and it grinds the beans and it makes the coffee at 5 a.m. And so I just don't even think about that anymore. I don't forget about it, because I've developed a routine and a system. And I could give you lots of other examples, ways that that's really helped me. So create and maintain routines. Um, there's more that I could say about that. If you want to know more, just shoot me a message, Cindy at cindybakercoaching.com, and I'll give you a lot more information on that. The third thing is, evaluate what you're doing all day. Your job, does your job match your skills and your strengths, or is it draining your energy? But I highly suggest that you do what you're good at. That's one of the best things, the best advice I can give for ADHD people is do what you're good at. And it doesn't mean that's the only thing you do, because your job may require you to do some things you're not good at. But do what you're good at as much as you can. And if the job is not a great match, maybe you look for something else, or use your volunteer work and your hobbies to really offset the frustration that you feel in being mismatched at your job. What are you guys thinking about that? I don't know what just happened here. Oh, there we go. Oh man. I'm trying to pull up the chat, and I don't know what I just did on my phone here, but it's gone berserk. So make sure you ask me questions. If you have an aha, you agree with something, let me know. If you're doing the dishes right now or whatever, just run over to your phone or your computer and type something, because it really helps with that interaction. So along with doing what you're good at, I would throw in exercise and hobbies in there. Exercise does not have to be something that you make yourself do that you hate. It can be a huge stress release. I just about an hour ago walked the dogs around the block, And I didn't really do it for exercise, although it was exercise. I did it as a stress release. I needed to get outside. I needed fresh air. I needed to move. I needed to think. And I just needed that little break. And so you have to do that. Take breaks to avoid overstimulation because that is stressful. All right, another tip, keep your environment organized and pleasing to be in. Clutter increases stress. In my coaching program, I have a whole 4-part series on conquering clutter, and I've added to that over the years because whether you consider yourself a clutter bug or not, anytime you let clutter pile up, it creates stress. I feel that way about piles of paper. If I end up with piles of paper, it makes me feel stressed, even if it's not something that I have to do. And so I try to keep those filed or thrown away or shredded or, out of sight, because when they're in my sight, I feel stressed. But clutter increases stress. And, if you're like a lot of my clients, you need help with this. And so I would encourage you to look into something like ADHD coaching to help you get organized. Okay, another little tiny tip is humor and laughter. Don't be so serious all the time. I'm still teaching in addition to this business, and I have one more year, I think, and then I'll retire. But I tell my middle school kids a joke of the day every day, and they're really stupid, and they're corny. But I do it because I like to laugh, and I feel like it kind of lets the tension out of the air sometimes. And helps me build a good relationship with them. You want to know today's joke of the day? Okay. Why did the tomato blush? Because he saw the salad dressing. Okay. As my kids would say, boy, Mrs. Baker, that's a knee slapper. They say it real sarcastically. But anyway, make sure that, whether it's watch a funny movie or just funny dog videos. Look up cats and cucumbers on YouTube. It's really funny. For some reason, cats are afraid of cucumbers. So anyway, that's a stress release. It really is. Another tip, I want you to let go of perfectionism. I know, easier said than done, and I'm talking to myself. Let go of it. Let go of people pleasing. There's nothing that's going to stress you out more than worrying about what people think of you. And I'm not saying that you just go around doing whatever you want. You do have to worry a little bit about what people think of you. I mean, let's take me, for instance. I mean, I'm concerned that what I do as a coach, and that I have your best interests at heart, and that I'm trustworthy. So I would certainly want to be concerned about what people think of me in that light, in terms of my reputation. But just worrying about, not having any boundaries and just bending over backwards to try to please people that can't be pleased, don't do that. And let go of that perfectionism. I tell my coaching clients, you have to be okay with good enough. Figure out what's 85%, and then just be okay with that, because you may not get everything done unless you can let go of perfectionism. And I say done beats perfect every time. It's another one of I have lots of little sayings from my coaching people. All right, guys, you're awfully quiet in the chat here. So say hi if you are watching, and if you're watching the replay, say hi. And if you're watching on YouTube or somewhere else, say hi in the chat as well. Another tip is to work on time management. Um, that's one of the biggest things that I help people with in coaching is time management. Why? Because people with ADHD have a different awareness of time than other people. We see things like now and not now. And it's hard for us to gauge accurately the passing of time. And we always underestimate how long something's going to take. We get overcommitted on our schedule. We we don't feel like doing something, or we're intimidated by it, so we procrastinate. We're rushed. We late. There's so many things that have to do with time management, and they all cause stress. Um, and so that's a lot of what we talk about. I have a whole 4-part series on that in my coaching. But make sure that you get ADHD friendly time management strategies. That's one of the things that I learned over the years is that other people's ways of looking at time is different than mine. That was a big light bulb moment for me. And that really does help if you can figure out how to see things, the way your brain is wired. So there's a lot more I could say about how to handle stress. But those are just a few tips. And of course, another one is just to take care of your physical health. Make sure you get sleep. That's one of the things that I worked on last year, trying to be better about getting the right amount of sleep. And so I would just encourage you, if you are interested in getting help with leveraging the strengths of your ADHD, and instead of just constantly feeling like you're frustrated, then reach out to me. Just put in the chat coach or coaching or something like that, and I will I'll get the information to you. So you I will actually get on a call with you and give you some free advice if that's something that you need. But I do have a free webinar coming up where I'm going to talk about a system that I have called the Get More Done system for entrepreneurs. And so if that is something that you are interested in, it's just getmoredonemasterclass.com. Getmoredonemasterclass.com. And I'll put it in the chat as well. And some of you have been to that before. So you don't need to come again unless you just want to. But in March, I'll be running another one of my live challenges called Chaos to Control, and we'll dive a little deeper into this time management thing for the unique way that our brain is wired. So, hey, Kathy, well, I'm glad you weren't texting and driving for sure. So, guys, y'all were awfully quiet in the chat, and do hope that you take advantage of the chat later if you're watching the replay, and ask me any questions, make comments, because I will interact with you. And I hope this was a great way to give you a little Monday motivation, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye.